Hi everyone, it's Peter from TurfmenUK and welcome back to the second part of our chat that we had with Dave Mitchell, the head groundsman at Carlisle United Football Club. In the first episode we chatted to Dave all about his career path in the sports turf industry as well as his early years at Carlisle United Football Club. In this episode we're going to be focusing more on extreme weather, particularly cold, and more specifically the winter of 2010, where despite temperatures as low as -15, Dave was still getting games on. It was part of our chat that I found interesting and informative, and hopefully you will do too.
It's regarded as one of the best pitches in the certainly in the lower leagues. You're always winning you've been recognised on numerous occasions for the quality of it. So there were a couple of occasions. I remember looking at football results coming in through the winter of 2009-10, and thinking Carlisle were progressing in the auto windscreen or Football League trophy, and they were getting games on, and the temperatures were -10, 11. You know, and literally Carlisle were the only team in the lower divisions that were playing football at one point. So I've never had the opportunity to ask you, but I was just wondering, was there anything that you had there contingency wise that anybody else didn't have to allow you to get those games? Because eventually it made the club a lot of money if you think about it, because they got to the final, they won it that year, or maybe they got to the final and lost against Southampton.
I think they maybe did. I'm not quite sure. I think it could have been about, they beat Brentford in the final, and I'm not sure what it was. It could have been 2010. It could have been 2010. So that season, but yeah, we went through a really good, after the second year, which wasn't good, we sat down and said, right, well, we need to do A, B, C, D, and E. So we'd strip the rubbish off the top, and then we put new fibre sand in to sort of dilute the rubbish that was, starting to build up in the top 6 inches. And then we did that, and then we got, there's a picture of me holding a core, and the roots are like...
Yeah, way down.
12 inches.
Wow.
And it's like unbelievable. And you said there, so one of the keys was the roots were fantastic. The growth was good. The recovery was excellent. And then when we came to that winter where it was we had a real cold spell. I mean, don't get us wrong, we did lose games in one of those seasons when it was really cold. I remember we played Leyton Orient at home, and that was off, and it was the same time they filled that Man United program. What do they call him? David Tennant was there on the centre spot filming, and it was just covered in snow. It was
right. Okay.
It was bizarre. It was just bizarre. So whatever that was that, and then of course that was just too cold. But that one year I think you're talking about, we played Tamworth at home in the cup. And that was freezing by half time, so 4:00 on a Saturday afternoon. And then as soon as the match had finished, we got the covers on, which I'll come to in a minute. We got the covers on, and then I think we played Sheffield Wednesday in maybe round 1 or round 2 of the auto windscreen.
Auto windscreen.
We won 3-1 that night, and of course, Sheffield Wednesday would be probably a League One team at the time as well. And then immediately after that game, we had the covers on again, because I think there was another game on the Saturday, which you get when you get all the cups. You can end up with 2 and 3 and 4 on the trot. But what we had then was this fleece, which had come from a local company where we tried it. It was like big, thick, 2-inch thick rolls of cotton wool, which in terms of an insulator, keeping the frost out, was fantastic. But we found that when you rolled it up, it actually stuck together. It
kept the moisture in it.
So in terms of keeping it kept the frost, it kept the heat in, but then when you rolled it up, it actually, because if you can imagine rolling a bit of paper up with frost on the top, the frost touches the frost, and it keeps going like a bit like a Swiss roll, and then it just it was jammed together. But come 5:00 at night, we couldn't unroll it, and we're like, oh my god, what are we going to do? So we just had to wrestle with it and to get it back on. And it ended up getting torn and all kinds of stuff. So it was a real old mess. But it got the next game on and the next game on, and then we kind of did away with it after that. And we looked at it, and the manufacturers had another go at it and made it more dense. and it came back probably 10 mil thick, 10 millimeters thick, 10 meter thick in rolls, which you could roll up better. It would still stick a bit, but you could pull it away without pulling a hole in it or anything like that. So that was better. But again, that got flooded in 05, not 05,
15.
Kind of got discarded after that. And then after those cold winters, we never really we had no need for it. I know 2 or 3 groundsmen rang me up and said, where did you get it? And I said, look, where are you? I'll be passing sometime. So I used to take them a bit. I'd cut a bit off and give them a bit and say, right, compare that to a black sheet. But what you have to bear in mind is, imagine rolling that all over your pitch. I can't remember what it was, Pete. I think it was, I should be able to do the maths on it. So it was 5, if it was 5 meters, you'd be looking at 10, 20. You could have been looking at about 50, 56 pieces on your pitch.
Yeah. And so what was that? How long was that taking you to put on at night? And what sort of hours were you working in the day then?
It would take nearly a day to put it on, and then you had an army of people to roll it off on a match day, and then an army of people to roll it back on again.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got an army, there was maybe 6 of us. And it was taking probably 3 and 4 people to roll one piece at a time. It didn't overlap that very well. When it overlapped, it was a bit too thick to get a peg in because it still blew away if you got a bit of a breeze. So it was practically a nightmare, but actually quite good at the job.
I mean, I can remember going to a couple of games that year, certainly, and being amazed that the pitch was in as good a nick, not as it was, but more amazed that people were actually playing football and they weren't slipping and sliding everywhere. Compared to everywhere else that was off, you looked at the fixture list, you looked at your pills coupon, 2p's, and then apart from Carlisle's game that was on, and it was so it's certainly. I can completely get the fact that it was an absolute pain to get on and off, but it was certainly something that seemed to sort of work.
It did work. I mean, there were some times where we had to leave it on for probably more than a week in advance.
Yeah.
Because once the frost gets in the ground, it's no good putting it on because you're just going to keep the cold in. Yeah. And then it gets awkward on a daily basis where if you've got frost in the ground, you need to get the sheets off and get a bit of sun on it. And you put them back on again. Well, it takes a day to take them off.
Yeah. So through the day, then you during that period of time, you would not have been getting any thawing from the sun during the middle of the day. No,
not really. But you've got to get them on before and keep the ground soft underneath. So this is what I was going to say. So what happens underneath? You cover it up so it's got very little daylight, and it's just sitting festering underneath. So another thing that I tried to do is to get a fungicide on before that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes we'd peel it back and it was just, you could see the white fuzz all over the place, and you're like, oh God, how much longer can I afford to have this on? So you're trying to weigh up keeping versus there might be no grass left. Yeah. So it's difficult. It's difficult. But the one thing I did notice about that season was the speed at which it came back once everything did thaw. I can't remember. Normally, as you've found, I can relate to a season through games, which sort of games and stuff. But we played Huddersfield. I can't quite remember what time of year. But let's say January, sometime after the thaw had started, and I could put a fork in the ground down to about 5 inches, but after that it was still frozen.
Yeah,
and of course, but you'd play.
I mean,
I didn't say anything because what you find with football is if you start putting a slight bit of doubt in somebody's mind, they kind of crack up and start thinking about it too much, So there you go. You played a game and 4 inches under your feet. It was rock hard.
Rock hard. So the risk, the water can't get away.
Well, correct. So the risk you're saying, if you don't bring it up and it buckets down, all of a sudden, oh God, it's gonna fill up with water and it ain't got nowhere to go. And then you might say, well, I could maybe run the vertidrain over it, and then you're thinking about, what about them nice long roots? I'm going to snap them and all the rest of it. So there's all kinds. There's all kinds. Yeah. On a game by game basis through sort of from mid-November onwards, where you might get your first frost. crikey me, all the way through to maybe even mid-March at times.
Yeah.
Where,
Certainly, we still get some cold snaps in March, don't we, up here?
Yeah, definitely. And then you've moved when and if you're not getting cold, you may be getting rain and water, and you're looking at it, you're thinking, we've gone around the block here, Pete, where you're saying, right, do I need to spike it before a game?
Yeah.
There was a run of about 3 and 4 games in, what league would it be? Whenever Coventry, last time Carlisle played Coventry.
2013, 12, 13, around about that.
Your stats are better than mine. Where Accrington Stanley on Boxing Day, Coventry, and another game after that spiked it because the forecast was for heavy rain, and it didn't rain once. It didn't rain once, and it wasn't even like, well, it did rain, but it started at 5 o'clock after the match. Didn't even rain, and you were like, oh no. So when that happens, you're going to go, right, I tell you what I'm going to do this time. I'm not going to do it. And then that's the time when it buckets down.
Yeah.
And that's what you're up against. You can,
it's sort of not. I always I've never worked anywhere where we've had irrigation,
right,
that didn't fall out of the sky, really. And everywhere I've gone, I always sort of banged the drum for getting it, basically because it was a management tool. But what I found was when we didn't have it, your life was governed by the weather forecast more than anything else. It was the main contingency we had. You're always looking to see what was round the corner and how you could best work your windows of opportunity for work into the weather, and then you get it all planned and everything. You sussed it, and then, like you say, you get a game where you're expecting it. You're looking up at the sky and there's nothing, and it becomes, at that point you've just got to say, well, I've tried my best, haven't you? You can't really do anything other than,
Oh, totally. And then from your boss men, from your manager to the board, they just have to understand that that's the way it is. You're doing your best. You're doing, and it's not, and it isn't rocket science. It's just common sense of like, right, you know your pitch, and it's like, right, if I don't do that, there's a risk. I've increased the risk. If I do it, I've decreased the risk.
Yeah.
And then you look at it, but if I do it, the bounce of the ball isn't as, kind of deadens the pitch a bit, doesn't bounce as fast or as high.
Yeah.
It's softer, so it's more laboured for the player. Little things like that.
Yeah.
You kind of, so then do I go very deep? Do I go half deep? If I don't go deep enough, the water's just going to fill the hole and come back up rather than go all the way through, into the lower root zone. So there's all kinds of things. And I'm not a fan of putting, tractors on and verti-drains on and something when I don't have to.
Yeah.
Because there's a good, if you can get a gap between games, sometimes the best thing is to do your hoovering with your rotary motor and get the bits up, and then leave it alone. Do the divots and leave it alone. And you can tell it just springs back up. It's just, nature's a great help. One day it's your friend, the next day it's your enemy, kind of thing. But when it's your friend, it's just, there it is.
So that concludes the second part of our chat with Dave. Hope you found it of interest. We've still got one more episode to come, which we will hopefully put out at the weekend. And that episode will focus in part on the winter of 2015 and mainly around the time of Storm Desmond and the after effects of it. One of the after effects of Storm Desmond was that Carlisle United decided that they were going to have to relay their pitch mid-season, just before an FA Cup tie with Everton, a televised FA Cup tie. So it's interesting to hear Dave how he managed that period and got the game ahead, and just a fantastic achievement really. As well as that, we'll also be talking to him about the lot of the modern day groundsman, how he manages to maintain a Football League standard pitch with reduced contingencies, staffing levels and budget, which is really enlightening, and he's just a great guy to talk to, always engaging and very informative. So that's to come at the weekend. In the meantime, please leave a like on this video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you get the opportunity so you're first to get any of our new videos. And if you would like to engage with us, please leave your comments in the comment boxes below. And until next time, we'll see you again soon. Take care, everyone.